Okay, so Stellar Knights is a game in which basically two players come together to make a whole. And so each pair of players is going to make a pair between a bringer and a sheath. The bringer is sort of like the one that's going to march into battle at the end of the scenario, and the sheath is their supporter, and they literally become the weapon in that last phase.
Very
Um,
much like kind of like Revolutionary Girl Utena, right?
exactly, it is
Actually,
basically a Utena the RPG,
that
like
isn't like the
150%.
terrible one that was made by Guardians of
Actually,
Order.
sorry. Related it closer to this other comic that's quite this other manga that's quite similar to Utena that's published by Square Enix called Shirakuen.
Huh.
Yeah,
Not
it's
familiar
it's
with it.
it's basically it's basically Utena but like with multiple girls that can turn into swords and there's a lot of them and it's very gay. Yeah,
Awesome. I love it.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
have to check it out then. So yeah, so that's what's going on here. So the world, um, I'm not real heavy. I don't really care a lot about like fluff or about like like I don't know, background stuff or world stuff for these kind of games, because it almost kind of doesn't matter. But basically, what it is that like this world is on the brink of extinction. There are two goddesses. There's a light goddess and a darkness goddess that are working in tandem, and then there's like another goddess of destruction who wants to destroy everything, and so each pair, one is light and one is dark, and they are both fighting against the void or whatever. And so it's an isekai world where um, your PC can have been brought over from any other world that you want. And there are a bunch of different stratas of society. They're like just like big like discs that are like on like these big pillars and stuff like that. So like the higher disc that you live on, the better you are in society. And there's universities and this and that, and it's all very fancy and whatnot. But really, we're here to just like bring these characters together and ship them basically. So
This is a one
all that stuff.
shot. We shouldn't get too attached to the characters, but just enough to actually like
Right,
move around inside them.
right. So the conceit is that these two characters are brought together so that they can um, fulfill their objective by defeating the bad guy, and in doing so, they are able to fulfill a wish. And um, And so it sounds all nice and good until you look at like the cost of each of the wishes, and depending on like what you wish, like if you wanted to like fix the world, you'd have to go through the game like 30 times because you need like like 300 wish points or something, and yeah.
So this
So
is how you have campaigns.
yes, exactly, yes. Um, so yeah, you can fulfill your wish if you win a whole bunch of times, but yeah, so that's what's going on.
I see. So also,
Uh,
so there's also a little bit of perhaps Madoka Magica in here as well.
yes, yeah. There's a bit of that here as well. So there's two ways of playing the game. One is where the GM just plays an NPC who just kind of shows up at the very end, and then everybody fights him, and then like all right. So the structure of the game is that first you introduce your characters, and then you have two rounds of these everyday scenes, Nichijou scenes, where it's just like each pair just does a scene of like everyday life. It might be from like a scene from when they first found out that they were going to be partners, or maybe they're doing something erotic, or maybe they're just like doing something normal or making sandwiches or whatever. And you do that twice, and then after that you do a scene where each pair, where the bringer turns the sheath into their weapon. Like the sheath transforms. You do like a transformation scene. And then after that, you do the battle scene, and then that's the end. And then you do the epilogue. So, so you can either do battle, which is like a random NPC that the GM just kind of has out there until the very end, or we're going to do what we're doing tonight, where there's 2 PCs and a GM. So there's going to be 3 pairs of characters, and the one that the GM controls is actually they have actually been brainwashed by the bad people, by like the bad goddess, and they haven't realized it yet, and they think that they are actually fighting for goodness, but actually they've been turned to evil.
Why are you spoiling it?
Well, I mean, because you have to know that in order to, well, because it doesn't
Setting
even
the
really
proper
matter.
expectations. Setting the proper expectations for what the game's going to be about. So that way
No,
there's no sudden like, oh my god, he wasn't supposed to do that, or I wasn't expecting. Setting the right expectations so it doesn't like meander around too much.
Right. And so like each partner, like each of the partnerships just have like this through line where that's only about them. They don't ever interact with any of the other partners really. It's just, like we don't have like a party. It's just a bunch of people a bunch of couples that are doing things. And when I say couples, it doesn't have to be romantic. It could be, it could be lovers, or it can be siblings. It could be good friends, or it could be rivals. It could be just, it's just really just a relationship of 2 people, one of whom is going to become the weapon for the other.
All 4 of those examples sound romantic.
I'm sorry?
All 4 of the examples you just stated sound kind of romantic in certain contexts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Relationships are complicated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah. So that's what's going on here. So with that in mind, let's see.
We're using some of the pre-mades for this one, right? And we're just sort of filling in the fluffy details with what we want.
Right, because I don't actually have the book on me. So
we got to work with what we've got.
Yeah. So we have my super janky translation, and then we have the pre-gens that are available online for free, and then I had the brilliant precognition to write down a bunch of other stuff that we would need for the final battle. So we pretty much have everything that we need except for like the random your story, your wish, your personality tables. But yeah, so that's the part that we're gonna have to make up ourselves.
Yeah, I already looked at some of the other character sheets from the last time you ran this, so I kind of have a little bit of a vague idea of what I want to do with my bringer character for this one.
Okay, cool.
Because it seemed like for things like your story, as well as what the despair and despair/hope was, and wish was, it was usually like a single word and then like a sentence that sort of extrapolated on that idea.
Yes, yeah. The tables are pretty broad, they're pretty vague, so that you can extrapolate on them.
And since this is just a story element, while it will sort of like impact how you're supposed to play the character, I don't foresee it like being like game breaking if you choose something out of the ordinary.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So when you make a character, the first thing that you're gonna do for your bringer is that you're gonna come up with all of this with all your stuff, and then your partner is going to come back and make the sheath in response to it. So Frank O'Connor, the vagrant folk singer.
All right.
What is your story? Where does he come from?
We'll say he comes from Massachusetts, the New England area.
Oh, okay. So he has been brought over isekai style.
Yes, he is from our world. Lives in one of the regions of the United States that has a pretty large Irish population. Ergo, his last name O'Connor.
All right. Interesting. Okay.
And yeah,
So, what is his despair slash hope?
all right. So I remember you said that for this one. The person making the bringer decides whether they're going to be hope or despair aspected, and then the
Correct.
person making the sheath has to be the opposite.
Correct. Yes.
And I decided that Frank was going to be a hope bringer,
Oh, okay.
and his hope is we're going to go with temperance or resilience.
Oh, okay. I want you to sort of expand on that if you can.
All right, so this is just going to be a quote that he just like has always been saying throughout most of his life. The quote is, I've survived every bad day up to this point. I'll survive this one.
Interesting.
Or I survived every bad day so far. I'll survive this one. There we go.
Nice. Okay. I like it. That's good. All right. What is his wish?
His wish, we'll say, to find his home. To find a home of his own instead of just being a wanderer.
Interesting.
So we'll just put homeward bound for that.
Okay. I like it.
And another quote from him, I've never had a home of my own.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna take a quote from the movie or something.
No. I've never had a home of my own. It'd be nice to have one.
Maybe quote like your quote was homeward bound. Quote the incredible journey.
No, not quite.
Okay. Okay, doke. All right. So, Fan Ling Qi.
Fang Lingqi. Yeah, just QI in Chinese is pronounced as like CHI in other languages.
Fuck. Okay. Do you think I'd be better because my wife can speak Chinese and I still can't read it. I can never tell if it's like in Pinyin or the other one and then I don't know. Sorry.
It's fine.
I'm trying, but I can't. It's hard.
It's fine. Chinese is harder than Japanese anyway.
It's kind of like me in French or Italian. I just cannot pronounce those languages correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so a teaching assistant. Okay, I see that that's her occupation.
Yeah, so she's kind of she's like a TA at like probably a university.
Mm-hmm.
She probably started she probably entered early, so she's actually doing her doctorate right now because she's consistently good grades. Because she's an honor student ultimately. Which is the story. Yeah. So she's an honor student. She's I want to say she's like the youngest in a family of like 6 siblings, and her other 5 siblings are all male. So she doesn't get a lot of attention, and a lot of the attention of her family goes to her male brothers instead, because that's just the way some families work. So she's trying to stand out by doing well in school and by studying very hard. So she's an honor student, but she's afraid that even though she's studying so hard, even though she's studying so hard, she's never got any like recognition, because her parents are always talking about her brothers, and her brothers, and she never gets anything like. She really never gets any notice, and to make it worse, she's a middle child. Yeah. So her wish in that sense is to be accepted by her parents or by someone, like to tell her and acknowledge her and tell her, yes, I appreciate your work and I appreciate what you've been doing, and I think so on and so forth. Yeah.
All right, I think I can actually work with that.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so So diligent and hardworking. Okay. Very nice. So, transform. What does it look like? Like, what's the theme for the transformation?
Um,
Kung Fu.
I was thinking since this was a folk singer, that was something like more that might be in line with like bards or string instruments, like maybe a whip. But you know what? I got it. 3-section staff, because that's a weapon that's traditionally associated with kung fu martial arts.
No, a 3-section staff that's a flute.
A 3-section staff that's a flute. All right, I'll go with it.
Wow. Okay, but how does the transformation occur? Like, what does it look like?
I guess it's kind of like it's not the Utena style where you're like pulling things out of people's bodies because that's weird.
Okay.
I think it's more like sort of a full transformation. So it's sort of like vanishing into light and then reforming kind of thing. Yeah.
All right, I actually got a better idea.
Oh yeah.
So one of the instruments that Frank likes to play when he's busking is like a penny whistle, which is a traditional instrument you usually hear in a lot of Irish folk music, right?
Yeah.
So he'll take one of those out of his pocket, start playing it, and you can start visualizing like musical notes like wafting away from his body, and it's blinding. That's the flash of light that you see. You see all the musical notes, and you just become overwhelmed by it. And then when everything calms down, he's wielding a 3-section staff that looks like 3 flutes that are chained together.
Very nice. Okay, I like it. All right, and you have your skills there.
Yep, I already familiarized myself with those. I have a lot of movement of myself and other characters for this guy.
Yes, apparently that's one of Blue and Knotweed's thing.
Yeah, because I read the notes that you've got right here. Blue is sort of like a support color, and Knotweed is really like defensive and evasive. It seems
Right.
which sort of fed into the hope resilience thing that Frank has.
Ah, very nice. Okay, cool. I like it.